Philly certainly missing Joel Embiid, falling in a 2-0 hole in Miami. A 16-point loss last night as the series now shifts to Philadelphia. There was hope that Embiid might be able to return for Game 3. Doc Rivers does not seem too optimistic about that possibility.
I really don't know. I honestly, we talked yesterday, we talked today. You know, new generation FaceTime. I don't know why they FaceTime, but he looked good as far as talking. But there's no. He's got so many steps to go through. I don't think he's cleared any of them right now. So we just have to wait and see.
Brian Windhorst, good to see you, sir. Wendy, tell me this. Is this series over even if Embiid returns? Because I'm hearing things about reservations in Miami already.
Well, Miami actually was a little bit vulnerable because Kyle Lowry is out with the hamstring injury, and we're not sure when he's going to be able to come back in this series, if at all. So I guess just because I've seen 20 years of the NBA, I wouldn't say for sure because I've seen things change really fast. But if Embiid can't play in Game 3, and if Doc was being 100% truthful and honest about what he said there, where he hasn't cleared the steps, because forget about the orbital fracture, there's concussion protocol steps that you cannot rush. And if I'm taking him literally at his word, I think it would be difficult for Joel to get cleared in time for 3. And no one's coming back from 3-0. So I don't think the Sixers are equipped to win 4 out of 5 against the Heat unless Embiid is a really strong aspect of it, even without Kyle Lowry. So they're in big trouble, and they're in big trouble especially when this offseason comes, because the way, how low is it going to go for the casinos when the over-under on James Harden? They got the over-under all the way down to 23 for him, 23 points for him last night. He still didn't hit the over. The casinos are reacting, I think, almost like the Sixers. How low is this going to go down? And at this point, James Harden is really a supporting player to a guy like Tyrese Maxey. And if you don't have Embiid and Harden is now becoming like a supporting player, seeing you win 4 out of 5, it's just a big ask.
Wendy's such a nice guy. He says, it's good to see you, buddy. He's people don't realize how much of a nice guy. I mean, he's got that, you know, that nice little chubby face, that lovable face. He's like,
you know what I was thinking? Hold on, I got to say one thing. Wendy, you have great skin.
He does.
When you were saying you could 20 years of covering the NBA, I'm like,
that's right.
No
I'm
wrinkles.
jealous.
Look at that skin.
I'm jealous.
But Here comes the other shoe.
I'm jealous.
No, not for me.
I'm jealous, but I used to be more jealous until I found my dermatologist, Dr. Ingleton. You the one, girl. You the one. My Dr. Ingleton. She's a fabulous dermatologist. I mean, can't you tell? But anyway, let's go back to the main stuff right here, okay? Here's the deal, Wendy. You're such a nice guy. You really, really are. Because this is over. All right, my reservations are made for South Beach.
Yeah?
I mean, let me be very, very clear. I know where I'm staying. Okay. I know when I'm going. I mean, this is what it is, okay? This is what it is. Now, we'll give the Philadelphia 76ers credit for this. If Joel Embiid were there, I think they'd have a real big-time shot to win this series. I think it would be a pick-em based on what I've seen for the first 2 games alone. Joel Embiid would have made that kind of profound difference. And with the way Maxey showed up last night, the things that James Harden is doing in terms of being deferential and having somebody to defer to, I think all of those things would have helped. And I think that the Philadelphia 76ers would have had a big-time bona fide shot of winning this series. But now Miami is up 2-0. So what you're talking about is a Philadelphia 76ers squad that has to win 4 of the next 5 games, assuming a series were to go 7, in order to win this series. That ain't happening. We talking about Joel Embiid being questionable for Game 3. I personally think there's a shot that he'll be there because he knows the season is on the line. They ain't coming back from an 0-3 deficit. So to me, if he doesn't play in Game 3, then he's really finished, because Game 3 would be back in Philadelphia, would be the time to come back. If we don't see him for Game 3, I don't think we're going to see him for Game 4, because it's going to be over if they go down 0-3. That's just how I feel about it, okay? But right now, when we look at the Miami Heat, they just seem to just turn it on with the Philadelphia 76ers, particularly when they choose. You go up in the first half, you up 12-13. Then Philadelphia catches up. They might even take a lead at halftime. Then they come back and they turn it on again. It's like they seem to be up and down, because I don't know if they're taking Philadelphia as seriously as they should because they know there's no Embiid out there. So they turn on the afterburners, they get a lead, and then after that, they lag off a little bit. And then when Philadelphia makes it interesting, they say, okay, let's stop playing games and let's close this deal out right now. I think that's what we've witnessed thus far in these first two games. I think that is what we will continue to witness. It'll be a little bit different because the crowd in Philadelphia will be hyped, ready to support their team. But I hope I'm wrong because I'm rooting for Doc Rivers and what have you. But I don't see, without Embiid, this team having any chance to win anything in this series. And certainly, even if Embiid comes back, you're asking them to win 4 of a possible. James Harden is not a max player anymore. Can we just get that out the way? Can we just do that for our audience here right now? Let's just stop it, okay? We respect James Harden. We know that James Harden has been great for years. A lot of it can be deduced to health issues. He wanted out of Houston, and he was determined to get out of Houston. So when they initially told him no, he came in out of shape, overweight, and obviously had to work himself into shape once he got traded to Brooklyn. In the process of doing so, he acquired a hamstring injury. He was never able to fully recover. Otherwise, Milwaukee wouldn't have won the title last year because Kevin Durant and Brooklyn would have beat that Milwaukee team. Maybe this Milwaukee team now as a seasoned champion is better. But last year when they were trying to learn how to win, Kevin Durant, size 13 instead of size 12 or whatever it was, all right, stepping on the line and hitting a 2 instead of a 3, allowed Milwaukee to survive and ultimately win that game in overtime. And as a result, the Brooklyn Nets missed out on it. And since Kyrie had injured his ankle, James Harden, came out there with a bad hamstring and tried to give it all he's got, and he deserves props for that. He comes to Philadelphia this year, okay? Even though he looked a bit stealth, like he had gotten himself in shape, he's never looked the same since he put on that weight because he was trying to get out of Houston. And it's come back to bite him because one could easily argue it has compromised his health. This is a guy, Wendy, and you know what I'm about to say here. James Harden has not attempted 20 shots in a game since he arrived in Philadelphia. Does anybody believe that? Did anybody? This is James Harden we're talking about here. James Harden, one of the most prolific scorers we have ever seen in the history of the NBA, has not even attempted 20 shots since he has arrived in Philly.
He can't get open, Stephen.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is not about a selection. That is not about being deferential to Joel Embiid. He can't get open. He can't create separation. And that is the reason why he has not attempted 20 shots or more since he has arrived in Philadelphia. In the last 14 games, we are talking about a guy that went like 6 or 7 straight years, averaging a minimum of 29 points a game. James Harden has not scored 25 points in a game for the last 14 games. This is James Harden we're talking about here. This is James Harden. And so let me tell you something right now. When you look at it from that perspective, yeah, you might have somebody like Mike D'Antoni lurking in the background saying this wouldn't happen if he was playing for me. You understand? You might have somebody like Daryl Morey, who's a big-time executive, and we all respect the hell out of Daryl Morey, but we know that he caters to his stars, and he believes in a guy like James Harden. Plus, he wants to validate the trade that he made. So now Doc Rivers' future is up is in jeopardy because you got to do everything you can to make James Harden look good. But it ain't about Doc Rivers. It ain't about Joel Embiid. It ain't about Daryl Morey. It ain't about the emergence of Tyrese Maxey. It's about the fact that James Harden is a step slower and has trouble gaining the separation that he once could easily gain. And as a result, he can't get off enough shots to average anywhere close to the points that he used to average. When you take those things into consideration, that means you're not a max player. Period. Doesn't mean he's a scrub. Doesn't mean he can't play. Doesn't mean he can't help you win. Doesn't mean he needs to come off the bench and doesn't deserve to be a starter. We're not going to disrespect him like that. But he's not the superstar player that he once was that requires the max. Now, maybe if he gets himself in shape, gets a strength and conditioning coach, Wendy, and dedicates himself, maybe he gets on that diet or that a culinary program that CP3 is on where it's plant-based and he ain't eating food, eating meat and all of this other stuff. And he's bragging about how other dudes need ice, but he doesn't. I shouldn't say bragging because he was just letting the brother know.
Yeah.
He wasn't bragging. He was actually informing me to make me better. So I appreciate that. He wasn't bragging. But my point is maybe that's what the situation is. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is James Harden, unless we are looking at a dude that's simply that's not in great shape, and that could be rectified by a strength and conditioning coach and a program that gets him, that elevates his level of quickness or whatever. The James Harden that we have seen in